Hello everyone. In this presentation, the life and mission of Reverend Myung, Part 5, we'll look at the development since True Father moved to Busan. He stayed in that mud hut there from 1951. But it was until 1954, for three years, just over 3 years, they lived in that hut. And that's where the main church was there. All their activities were based there. But they eventually moved to Seoul. And the first church itself in Seoul is a humble building. But they grew rapidly. Many members joined at that time. They continued to grow. You can see in this picture, True Father in the center. But they didn't grow without controversy. Wherever Father went, Satan was always trying to trip him up in different ways. But two universities, particularly the Ewha University and the Yonsei University, many students started to join the movement from there. These are theological students and professors who actually heard True Father's teaching, the divine principle, and they joined. But this was seen as a big threat to the university's management of Ewha University, and they eventually gave an ultimatum to their staff and students, saying that they had to leave the Unification Church or be expelled from the college. And one professor at that time explains it. Wonpok Choi: I was exposed to our church as Dean of Students at the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. At that time, many brilliant students from the campus would go to a very strange group of Christians. The rumor was spreading. The school was very watchful. Dr. Young Kim was sent from her department, and I from mine, to save the girls from falling prey to that hated group. 14 people joined the movement. The school branded us as heretics. It gave us the alternative. If you want to belong to the church, then you must leave school. Well, this is how they were viewed, as a hated group. But this is a very similar situation that True Father experienced in North Korea, in Pyongyang. Well, the ministers of the established churches were jealous of his success. Instead of coming to work with him or learn from his message, they just saw Reverend Myung, they saw True Father as a threat. And at that time in North Korea, they reported him to the police. And this is the cause why True Father was imprisoned and eventually ended up in Hongnan. Young Kim, another professor who joined the church at that time, speaks: when a group of professors and students at Ewha Women's University became followers of Reverend Myung, they were ordered either to leave the movement or be expelled from school. Since this act aroused venomous press criticism as a violation of religious freedom, the opposition began spreading vicious rumors that the new church was guilty of sexual immoralities. In South Korea, Unification members were denounced by the established churches. Reverend Myung was condemned by some Presbyterians as a heretic. It's from a book, Unification Theology, 1980, pages 17 to 18. So this was how they were treated at that time. It was very disgraceful. But this was the origin of the negativity at this time. They were trying to destroy True Father's church because it was successful. But to do that, they spread false rumors and say it's a sex cult. Also, they're spreading guilty of sexual immoralities. But it's unfortunate because these rumors stayed around forever until the present day. and it's spread around the world. And True Father states, Iwa fired 5 professors, including Professor Myung Kim, and expelled 14 students. Yonsei fired 1 professor and expelled 2 students from it as a peace-loving global citizen, page 124. So these students and these professors, they were prepared to follow True Father at that time. Many wouldn't, of course, but they decided to follow him. But they're treated so unjustly. And of course, all this negativity was spreading around to the media and so on. And so the ministers, just like in North Korea, they actually really tried to destroy True Father. Father states, ministers and elders of the established churches joined hands with secular authorities in writing letters calling for our church to be closed. These 4 members, who had been with me from the beginning, were forced to stay in prison with me. The police investigated my background and came up with a charge of a draft evasion. But this too was egregious. By the time I escaped the North Korean death camp to head south, I was already beyond the age of compulsory military service. Still they charged me with that draft evasion. That's Peace-Loving Global Citizen, page 127. And so, the only charge they could charge True Father with was draft evasion, but he was in Hungnam death camp. How could he join the army? And he was there, as we've seen, for 2 years and 8 months. And so it's a ridiculous accusation. And in 1955, in July, as a result of this, Reverend Moon and 4 other members went to prison 3 months. Later they were found to be innocent and were released. Father was released and declared innocent of all charges. And the newspaper at that time, the Donge Ilbo, this is a direct quote from it. Donge Ilbo, 1955, 10th to the 5th, Unification Church leader Sam Myung Moon is found to be innocent by judge in charge Yun Hak Ro yesterday at 10:30 a.m. at Seoul District Court. Now I put this in a red square for the reason is because this was just placed in the inside of the newspaper that most people didn't even see. But until that time, all the 3 months that True Father was in prison, even though he wasn't even guilty of anything, all the headlines of the papers were criticising him, were really trying to destroy his character at that time. But even though he was innocent, this was just placed in the inside of the paper where no one even noticed it. But the slurs against Father remained with him and until the present day, even though he's proven to be innocent. These are pictures of Father at that time. And so this is the early time when True Father was in Korea. Despite all the opposition from the Christian ministers and so on, and the authorities, Father still established a firm foundation in Korea and eventually sent missionaries to Japan, America and around the world. But it's so important to understand this origin of the movement. So we'll continue in the next presentation. We've seen already that True Father was married and his wife did not want to accept him. She lost faith. We'll look more at this in the next presentation and eventually his marriage to Hak Jae-han. Anyway, thank you for hearing this presentation and we'll continue in the next presentation, part 6. Thank you very much.